Okay, it's not working out. I'm gonna need your hollows.
No, please. Please, you don't understand. This is all I have, I'm nothing without my hollows.
If you're nothing without the hollows, then you shouldn't have them.
Welcome to Courtesy to the Commons, the show that unironically uses Comic Sans. This is a common-only and sealed-only Yu-Gi-Oh! Challenge, with a slight taste of coffee stock footage. Make yourself comfortable and let us begin. We have $5 left from last time, and with our usual $20 budget, that gives us 25 to spend. It wasn't easy, but I managed to pick up something that might very well be worth the money. The 2020 Megatins aren't the easiest thing to get right now, and I refuse to pay anything too high for them. So I bartered a little bit and found a seller that sent me a new tin for exactly 25 bucks. Well, new in terms of that the boosters at least haven't been opened yet. There isn't any structure deck to get into this time, so we jump straight to the boosters. I'll have the opening run through very fast now, and we'll go into the details later. I gotta say, the Megatins have been some of my favorite things to open. Not only cause I like the actual metal box, but also the content is quite varied and the surprise factor is huge. I just wish that I knew about the common challenge a bit earlier, cause then I would have saved the ones I opened just for this. In terms of target cards, there are some monsters that would help out with inherent special summoning conditions. Also a few strength specific cards and extra deck monsters, all available at common rarity. Also, we might draw a few things that hint at the direction I want to take this challenge in. I also noticed something when opening the cards. If you're doing this common only thing, it really feels like a greater part of the booster is important, or at least worth checking out. Obviously, these are cards that would have been there regardless, but you get the point. Okay, let's take a closer look. Would you look at that, we got Pot of Extravagance. That gives us a little bit to sell now. Here is all the shiny stuff. Firewall Exceed would have been nice, but the rest is very specific, so we don't lose too much. In terms of target comments, mostly didn't get the things I was looking for. Still, I'm one of those stupid people who find limiting options exciting, if you haven't realized. So let's see what we have to work with. The hollows aren't the only thing specific. Here you can see all the things that are mostly useless on their own, with the exception of a BES monster with a special summon condition. First up, we have quite the baffling Marinces collection here. From my knowledge, they get a lot of link plays going on, but are generally very restrictive. The link needs a level 4 or lower monster, but the only one we got is level 5, so yeah, so much for that. Enter Dino Restless. They got a fusion spell, but we don't have a target, and 2 monsters with theoretically good special summon conditions, so I guess they will be considered. Next up is Tenyi, and that's quite interesting, because with stuff like the field spell, you have really good generic normal monster support. Next to their quite interesting monsters, you got stuff like this soft, foolish burial kind of card who also benefits like all normal monsters in general. So interesting stuff to say the least. Then you have things like Neospace Connector, which would be great if we had any Neospatian or even Neos himself. And also a Hero Link monster that's theoretically summonable, but we got no ways of benefiting from the effect in any kind of shape or form. Oh yeah, normal monster stuff seems to be a theme here. Glimmer, kinda hard to pronounce, is a trap card that can essentially turn one monster you control into a normal monster. Wow, that's specific. Like, I think of weird situations where it's better to have a normal monster on the field for stuff like the Tenyi, but unlike a reaction to an opponent's effect. So that's kind of the niche this plays into, and it's very interesting to see, so maybe someone has a use for this. I'd love to see that. Okay, moving on. The next card is Tyrant Farm, and also seems to play into that niche. You can replace an effect monster from the field with a normal monster from the grave. And I guess they had some kind of Gemini mechanic in mind, because of the artwork from the card, like portraying Gigaplant. But that's still very restrictive, because you're also locked to a very specific attribute. Well, we don't really up the stakes here. But let's stay at the bottom. How about you target and banish an opponent's monster? till the end of the turn. I like the cat though, it senses that something is off with the power level here. Guard Dragon Cataclysm. Offer 1 dragon as a tribute and destroy 2 cards. If it would destroy the monster on the field, the rockets would be like heavily focused on that card. But hey, I've seen worse. Maybe as a spell card it would have been nice to play. Cliffhanger of the Wealth Chalice, next to having a pretty cool artwork, is a nuke that goes off when 2 link monsters battle. Okay, we come to the more interesting stuff for our deck. Guard Dragon Promenesis. This card for a quick attack boost, but that's not the main selling point here. Not only would we benefit from normal dragons now being sent to the grave, he is also a fire monster, and more on that later. Rocket Synchron, sup. Not necessarily our best card, at least not at 2, so we'll just awkwardly say hi and then move on pretending not to know him. You know what that is? 3 link monsters in his summoning condition? That's a super poly target. Maybe not so likely, but imagine stealing a full board of links for this. Our extra deck isn't necessarily crowded, so welcome in, buddy. We got a generic fusion spell here that can even use stuff from the grave, as long as the monsters used are link monsters. We'll keep this in mind for now, this is far from being the worst. Here is Salamangrate Wolfie, a Cyburst type and a fire monster. And when you special summon it, or put it from the grave back to your hand, you can recycle a fire monster from the grave. So where am I getting with all the fire types all of a sudden? Heater. If we play against any fire decks, or any deck with an Ash Blossom that happens to be in our opponent's grave, Heater is our way to get to higher links quicker. And also if she is destroyed by a card effect, she also recycles a fire monster. I'm really happy to see a playable Charmer Link monster, cause I really enjoyed the new Charmer support. And hey, like I said, our extra deck isn't exactly crowded. With that said and done, onto the games. Okay, what do I wanna say with this? I have a little surprise for you. You get 2 experiments this episode. One was a failed one, with me wanting to include the Tenyi cards and increase the number of normal monsters. Turns out, this was a very stupid decision, cause it had too many strategies with no real synergy. I chose Leotron from the Cyber starter deck, next to Flamewell Guard, which was already in there. I either drew into the normal monsters first, or could only mildly benefit from special summoning the Tenyis. So after losing the first 3 matches, I decided to make a revision and start again. Hey, who says it is mandated by law that I stick to it for the episode? I wanna learn, and the first lesson this time just happens to be quite early. Something along the lines of, just cause cards can form a playable engine, doesn't mean they fit. Very basic I know, but sometimes you gotta see it for yourself. Cue the training montage. So the big problem here was the multiple strategy thing. We need to streamline a few things. That basically meant that some rockets came back from episode 2, and on the other hand I wanted to include Super Poly as a little challenge in order to bring out Almaduke. Okay, here's the showcase. The Shadows got smaller, cause I often sided Hedgehog because I could rarely benefit from the Shadow in hand and had no spell and traps that could benefit from his Surge effect. Rockets are bigger again. All their cards that have an effect when they are sent from the field to the graveyard are in. Defrag Dragon is out cause the discard seemed like too steep of a cost in many hands, and we have other ways of getting stuff out cheaper. Speaking of which, there are a few changes in terms of generic stuff that can special summon itself. Mandragora got in, cause depending on the opponent's field you can special summon it even if you already have monsters out. Dark Armed Dragon got out, cause we couldn't really reliably produce the 3 exact cards in the grave, and Barbaros got out as well, cause he didn't really fit. The fire strategy isn't a bad idea, just very situational, but what isn't in this series. We can theoretically recycle even Lava Golem. Script Draw came back, and I already mentioned the Super Poly experiment. I was annoyed with some spell and trap heavy opponents, and I usually had to wait to game 2 in order to even destroy their cards, besides of stuff like Shadow Dragon. So I added Twin Twister to the main deck from the side. The trap lineup got a little smaller, excluding Sinister Shadow games. Extra deck is all I could fit in, even if 2 of them aren't even summonable. In the side, in Super Poly's place, we have now Allure of Darkness. And I still can't justify some spots of the side deck. You'll spot World Legacy Cliffhanger as like a potential side against Link heavy opponents, but I don't know about that one. Into battle with the new deck. The first match was against Ancient Gear, and after 5 turns I faced a big bad 5 monster fusion, and neither Crackdown nor Lava Golem could save me in the end. You'll spot Overload Fusion in the opponent's hand just in case I'd survive. Second match, I managed a pushback when flipping Shadow Dragon up in the right moment. My opponent then shot Gear down with Ancient Gear Cannon, allowing him to search his monster, which also has a built-in fusion card. This is so cool, how come I not know about Gear Dog? Before searching enough monsters to bring back my old friend. Ouch. Next up was Dark Magician, and I know at least something about the deck. It seems my opponent bricked quite hard, besides a few trap cards. And the first rounds were exactly that. Me running into all trap cards cause I had no way of getting rid of them. This would have been the ideal space for a competent push. Maybe I need to add a second Twin Twister. Anyway, next to that I noticed another huge flaw in my deck. The Lightsworn guys rarely work. And it's basically another huge strategy that is supposed to kinda play into the Chadolls, but due to their low numbers it's way too unreliable. And look at what I basically threw into the graveyard for nothing. My opponent then managed to draw into the combo pieces a little bit later into the match and managed to build up a somewhat competent board. That was basically end of game 1. And next match was more of the same. But I guess my opponent had a better hand this time, because this was very quick. Again, it's a very pricky deck, and with Eternal Soul over there just mocking me, I just needed to draw into one spell and trap removal. And I sided all of them, but none of them would show up. Okay. If you wanna see a competent Lightsworn user, look no further than my next match. I like the field in a way though. Linkurio being all like, yup, that's me. Next up was Eldritch, and I managed my one trick with Crackdown and steal the big fusion. But my demise here was Doom King Baladroch and his loop, come back and banish stuff. And second match was even quicker. These were some devastating games, and I just couldn't stand a chance. We come to probably the most interesting match in this episode, which was against Melfi. First round, my opponent managed to bring out Naturia Beast, and basically shut me down. I could stall a bit with Turtle Power, but next up came the next negate, Herald of the Arclight, and that was game 1. In the second match I went first and wasn't about to let that happen again. Monster wise I had a slow hand, but this could work. My opponent and I then played a bunch of turns with no one really taking the upper hand. But then I managed to push through by sadly sacrificing Raikou and then playing BLS in the main phase 2. Next turn I was met with a Melfi wall. Finally my Twin Twister actually showed up and the field looked better and better. Then a Raccoon came and rammed into my BLS and I brought out Triple Burst Dragon. My opponent was down to 1 card in hand. This had to be it. Then he drew into Hide and Seek. Damn, that's protection and recovery. He got to... No, not this time. I used Naturia Beast to go into Borreload Dragon. This deck has such an incredible recovery. His Tri-Brigade monsters then attacked, but my opponent didn't read Triple Burst. Still, full hand, and the cycle continues. He got rid of Decode Talker and tried Raccoon again. No, not this time either. But damn, Melfi Hide and Seek is still out there generating advantage. We were at turn 18 and I stole a Link monster with Borreload still standing, when he drew into Obedience Schooled. And what killed me in the end were the direct attacks of 2 Joyous Melfis. Okay. I didn't win a single match, not even a game, at least in the matches I could count. Still, I'm somewhat satisfied. The last match was really fun in hindsight. We need some big thing to bring this deck to the next level though. I don't want to rely too much on luck to win. If I get to it, I hope that next episode will shake things up a bit. On to the learnings. To the line from before we add that Lightsworns either need more targets or should be excluded entirely. The fire monsters didn't really work for now, only one time in a match I couldn't really count because my opponent left. We'll see what we can do here. And the last learning is still from last time, we still need more consistency, disruption, anything along those lines would work. The tin didn't really deliver in that regard, but on the other hand slow and chill is more my style anyway. And with that, that's all for now. And hey, new band list is out, Lightning Overdrive and even Egyptian God decks. Wait, Harpy's Feather Duster? Oh.